afternoon, Bishop.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for being here in Sarnia and the special celebration we had for our family of parishes here in Sarnia, and also for participating in this interview with both Nicole and myself. My name is Joanna Teresi, and I was the former CYM, as you know, here at Sacred Heart. And Nicole is a teacher, kindergarten teacher at Gregory Hogan School. So we've been tasked with asking you some questions that we had sent off to you earlier this week, and we hope you didn't find them too difficult. But we just wanted to ask you a little bit about your background, your formation, your time as a teacher, and also your time as bishop with the London Diocese. So I'd like to invite Nicole to maybe begin with some of the questions about your early years.
Who would you say had the greatest influence on you during your formative years?
I would say that it was really my family. It wasn't my mother and my father and my two sisters as well. So just what they gave us, because we grew up Catholic, which meant that we didn't have a choice about going to church on Sunday. It was, okay, everybody's up and everybody's going to church, and there was no arguing about it or anything. But they passed on to me the values that I have now, and the faith, and because they were new. They knew what immigrants to Canada were all about. They came over with nothing. Education was a huge thing. I mean, that was they made incredible sacrifices so that we would get an education and have opportunities that they never had.
Right.
So,
Now, would you have gone to a Catholic school then?
went to a Catholic school.
Yeah, and high school as well.
And high school. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So. And it was all in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We walked to our elementary and our secondary school. So.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any part-time jobs or anything like that?
When I was in high school and university, I had part-time jobs over the summertime. Not during school time, but during the summertime. So I would usually get a job in construction.
Yes.
I was on a survey crew one summer. We were doing road work another summer and laying pavements. So I think it was they told me like 100 degrees or something.
Oh, yeah.
You were walking on this all day, but I loved it because they pay you overtime. And you could work, when they're paving you could work till 8 or 9 o'clock at night and make great overtime. So.
Absolutely. Did you have an influential teacher or coach when you were growing up?
Yes. Yeah. My math teacher in high school, I remember a lot of my teachers in elementary school because of the influence they had on me. A couple of them were sisters, St. Joseph's sisters.
Okay.
And when I went to high school, it was a community of called the Basilian Fathers, and they teach at Assumption High School and University in Windsor. And a number of my teachers were priests, and one of them, my math teacher, was one who had big influence on me. And several of them, because where they lived in the high school, several of them would go for walks and just stop in at our house. And so we got to know them personally. And so if they had any trouble with me, they'd just tell my father and he would take care of it.
So you were a bit on a short leash.
Exactly.
Is that right?
Could you tell us about your faith life and who you would say had an influence on you?
So as I said, like church was just part of our life. Our pastor was Father Monsignor Cellini, and we were altar servers, so I was an altar server, and we'd get to if there was a funeral, and if we got chosen, we'd get to get off class that morning. So we liked to serve at funerals and that. So that was an early part, and like on Sundays we'd have benediction that we'd go to church for, and we'd have in May, and we'd have the rosary, the living rosary, and so that was part of our life. And then in high school, it was a Catholic high school, and so we were taught by the priest. So those were formative things for me, and for my family. That was just something that we did. It was part of who we were. So when we talk today about becoming an intentional disciple of Jesus, I mean, that was just something that I grew up with. But I had to do that when as an adult, I had to at a point say, no, this is for me. I had to do that myself. I couldn't rely on my parents and my teachers to do that for me, which was just part of your life. But that point of becoming an intentional disciple of Jesus was something that I had to do personally.
Well, and I find when I was involved in ministry, Bishop, that it's the challenge that we always presented to our grade 8 students as they were preparing for confirmation. It was a confirmation of their own faith and how they were going to take a more hands-on approach to their own formation and with their faith, So,
Yeah, I admire we often do it in grade 8, but I admire them and the preparation they get. I mean, you can really see that they've been engaged in their own personal lives to take their faith themselves.
Did you have a favorite pastor or priest, and why?
One of the priests in particular that taught me in high school that had approached me about thinking about the priesthood, which I didn't do in high school, but sort of he planted a seed. And what I never would have expected it. It was totally something out of the blue for me. And so, then he sort of pushed me. He said, no, you should really think about this because you have qualities that would be good for the priesthood. And I was shy. I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. And it was him and other of my teachers that saw something in me that I didn't see myself. So they really had an influence on me that was, I think, changed my life, really.
I think we could safely assume, though, maybe that it was divinely inspired, maybe, Bishop?
Well, when we look at it,
Don't you think?
that's the way the Holy Spirit works.
Absolutely.
It works through you and
Yes.
teaching and yourself as
Yeah.
a pastoral minister. That's how Jesus works. He doesn't normally come down with all the lights and,
No.
and in claps of thunder and lightning. Normally he
comes
works through.
in the softness in the breeze, right?
It enables us to recognize, well, in ministry, that it's really a humbling expexperience that, like in the class, you could change a person's life. And,
Absolutely.
and they'll talk about, why are you an actor today? Well, they'll talk about their teacher that inspired them. I mean, it's really a humbling experience.
When would you identify that you were actually really discerning the call to the priesthood, that you really were considering it seriously? Would that have been in high school or post-secondary?
For me, it would have been post-secondary.
Okay.
And it really there was, I think I had a religious experience that really helped me to make my faith my own. Yes. And it happened through when in my first year university, one of my closest friend, we decided at the end of the first year to live together in an apartment, cook for ourselves for the very first time. Yes. So I'd phone up my mother and ask what I had to do when it was my turn for cooking.
Yes.
But he wasn't Catholic. He was studying math like I was, and he was from a small Christian community. So we would talk sometime about religion, and he invited me to join his community. It was a small community. And the time that I visited, they had a preacher from the south
Oh, wow.
And he was one of the
Fiery. Yeah.
fire type of
Yeah.
guy, and really railed against the Catholics.
Of course.
And I was sitting there, of course. I don't
Yes.
think he knew that I was there.
Yes.
When we were at home, he asked me. Well, he says he sort of apologized for
Mm-hmm.
the preacher, but he said, what did you think of it? And
Mhm.
so, I said to him, I said, you really don't like us as Catholics, or you have
Yes.
something about it as Catholics. And
Yes.
and his answer was, I remember, he
Yeah.
says, well, you don't read the Bible.
Ah, yes.
That's what he said to me.
Yeah.
Well, I became a little bit defensive.
Yes.
I said, well, we got the Pope,
Well, it was a tit for tat, right? That kind of thing.
Well,
Yeah.
I got defensive, and
Yes.
so but he pressed me. He said, "You don't read the Bible." He
Yeah.
says, "I bet you don't even have a Bible."
Oh,
Well, I
okay.
had to admit I didn't have a Bible.
Yes, yes.
And so the next week, he came home and he presented me with a Bible,
Yes.
and he said, "I'm giving to you this as a gift." And he said, "Look on the first page here." He said,
Yes.
"It's approved by the Catholic Church, so you can read
Oh,
this
right.
Bible."
Yes.
So he said, "I'm giving it to you, and I want you to read it."
Wow.
And so I put it on my shelf.
Like the good Catholic you were.
Right. And I guess one time I
Yes.
was bored doing exams or something, and I pulled it off the shelf and just opened it up and started to read it. And that
Yes.
was me reading the Bible on my own for the
Yes.
first time. I started just reading the Bible, opening it and reading it. And one time I was reading, and I had the sense that God was speaking to me
Yes.
very personally.
Yes.
And I wasn't just reading something about our faith. God was speaking to me. And that was a conversion experience for me.
Yes. Who was the first person you shared after you were seriously considering going into the priesthood? Who was the first person you shared that news with?
My mother and father,
Okay.
and I remember my father, he just took me aside and he
Yes.
spoke to me.
Yes.
And it was he said, "If this is what you want, I'll support it."
Yes.
But he said, "Have you thought that it can be a lonely life as a priest?
Yes.
Have you thought about that?" I remember my father saying that to me.
Yes.
And my vocation was not with as a diocesan priest,
Right.
but in a religious community of teachers, which I
Right.
was excited about teaching. I look back on my life, I've never lived on my own.
Yes. Okay.
I've always lived with at least usually a community or
Mhm.
another priest.
So, Bishop, you were ordained on August 15, 2002. What was the highlight of that day?
Well, it was an overwhelming day.
Yes.
It was hot.
Yeah, I remember. I was
extreme,
there.
It was extremely
Yes.
hot.
Yes.
What was striking for me, it was my first experience really of the church in the Diocese of London.
Yes.
I mean, everybody was there
Yeah.
representing the parishes and
Yes.
the priests and the deacons and the lay ministers. And it was our church in the diocese celebrates. We sing and we participate in the liturgy,
Yes.
and we do liturgy really well.
Yes.
And it was for me an experience of the church here in the
Yes.
diocese.
Yeah, it was a wonderful day. It was a blessing for all of us who were extended an invitation, and I'd never experienced anything quite like it. It was a very special day. So 20 years can also bring about some personal challenges while also managing your duties as bishop. How do you maintain balance?
For me, that's really important. The danger, of course, for anybody in ministry is burnout. There's
Yeah.
just so many demands on you in leadership today. And for me, the lesson that I learned in terms of my own spiritual life is the importance of prayer. And it's a daily habit that I have. And I think that's sort of the foundation of it is that every day going to prayer being part of your life, and having someone that you trust that you can speak to, like a spiritual director.
Right.
Before I go to bed, I always try to review the day.
Yes.
Jesuits call it examen, and
Mhm.
that's been an important part of trying to connect with the Lord and keep that balance
Mhm.
in my life.
Well, I think with that, Bishop, we will end our interview, and we want to thank you on behalf of the family of parishes here in Sarnia, Bluewater. We want to thank you for your time with us and for also being so kind in sharing your insights and answering our questions today. Thank you, Bishop.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. It has been.
Great questions.
Okay.
And the last thing, if you could say, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Don't forget to what?
Like, comment, and subscribe.
What is that?
That's when you're on YouTube, and
Let's
to
look at your
follow.
followers.
Yeah, it's your followers, Bishop.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with YouTube.
Oh no! Oh, Bishop, we have to get you in on that.
You just literally say, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe.
Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe.